Thanks, Glenn. Sorry, gentlemen, I'm going to do my intro in Spanish. Hola a todos, buenas tardes. Voy a conectarme, pero ante todo quisiera dar unas palabras de agradecimiento al comité de organización de este evento por haberme invitado, particularmente a Ernesto Kaiselburg, que fue el primero en mandarme un mail, invitarme a venir. Ernesto, sabiendo que vivo en Europa, me mandó un mail hace un par de meses y me dijo: Anntao, si venís, te prometo una cosa, el mejor asado del mundo. Ernesto, son las 3:30 de la tarde, viajé 14 horas de avión, ni noticias del asado. Cuando quieras. También quisiera agradecer a mi vecino de mesa durante el panel sobre móviles, en el momento en el que le di mi móvil o mi smartphone, no cliqueó en mi galería de fotos. Muchas gracias por habernos salvado ese momento de incomodidad, supongo. Un ejercicio físico antes de empezar. ¿Quién escuchó hablar de Google Consumer Surveys? Gracias, Ernesto. Perfecto, me alegro de haber venido. Como lo dijo Glenn, me encargo del lanzamiento de esta solución. No sé, pero estoy conectado. ¿Ven algo? Ok. Me encargo del lanzamiento de esta solución para Latinoamérica y Europa. Mi presentación está en inglés, así que voy a pasar al idioma de Shakespeare o de Eminem, dependiendo de sus referencias culturales. Y empiezo. Perfect. So, Google Consumer Surveys is Google's new monetization solution. The first thing that I want to underline is that Google Consumer Surveys is not an advertising solution. Please remember that while I go through this presentation. I will remind it over and over again. I know it's important, usually, when you have someone from Google talking. This is not an advertising solution. So the reason why we're here today is obviously this graph that shows the fall in online and print revenue in your industry, $30 billion from 2016 and 2014, and that has obviously led to what are called today the paywalls. Right? And we've seen hard paywall, we've seen metered paywall, we've seen freemium models, we've seen a lot and we've heard a lot. And actually, I invite you to Google, Bing, or Yahoo, the word paywall and get some news. It's actually pretty hard to get concrete data on what's happening on your market. And we have some examples of paywalls that didn't work, so publishers went back from those decisions. We know a few that are working, or at least that's what we read about. But I find it intriguing that there is a lack of public data, right? I want to hear about what's the real impact in terms of user experience, what's the impact on bounce rate, on time on site, on dwell time, all those metrics that are important to drive growth, basically. I also want to hear about impact on advertising revenue. Is this actually cannibalizing your advertising business? Are you using the data from paywalls to feed into your advertising strategy? And also the churn rate, right? Having a subscription doesn't mean you'll have a subscription forever. So as I was thinking about those issues, I want to say, I kind of tried to imagine what were the main two reasons why people aren't buying those subscriptions. And I came up with those, and you guys tell me if you agree or not. The first one being users feel it's too expensive and that actually news are free. In the first chat, there was a company mentioned, they called Blendel. You can see that's their logo down there. So Blendel is a startup from the Netherlands, and they have a very slick interface, and they offer micropayments in terms of, in exchange for articles. And they federate articles from across the web. And they've been underlined as a success case, at least in Europe, where they operate. And I think it's interesting because they're kind of showing the trend that there is a will to buy journalism, which doesn't necessarily mean that users are willing to pay for news. It means they're willing to pay for journalism, for investigative pieces, for opinion pieces. Now, having said that, it's important to underline that Blendel operates in an ecosystem where language might be a natural entry barrier for a free news provider. They operate in Dutch. If you Google tomorrow, or actually today, the results of the Copa America, you're going to find thousands and thousands of suppliers for that information. If you do the same search in Dutch, you're going to have just a chunk, right? So that might be a case of success as well. The other, sorry, I'm flying through because we don't have a lot of time and I have a lot of slides. The second reason why I believe users are not buying subscriptions is because benefits are unclear. And I see this, I've done a graph showing my lack of skills on PowerPoint, actually Google Drive, but it seems that publishers think about paywalls only for loyalty. And if you remember on the first presentation, I believe we were talking about push and pull strategy. I feel that's not the right approach. Do you really want to reward the users that come to your site every day, that spend a lot of minutes on your site, by pushing them to pay? I don't feel that's the best approach to transform a loyal user into a lover of your brand. And an example that I like to give here is Kickstarter, because I think Kickstarter understood it all. And I'm going to give you a concrete example. I actually spent $200 on a movie in Kickstarter. The first price for that movie was $7. You would pay $7 to fund that movie, and you would have access to the movie. Now, I paid $200. Why? Because Kickstarter understood that if I'm there, looking at this project, is because I'm in love with the director. I'm in love with his work. So I'm willing to spend more if they give me more. And it didn't say pay $200, you get twice the movie, right? Or if you pay $7, you just get the first 20 minutes of the movie, which is kind of, if we feel is happening with paywalls. What I'm saying is, with $200, they gave me so much more. They gave me access to notes to the production. They gave me the script. They gave me an autograph poster of all the cast. So I feel it's about the packaging. It's about what you give and what you offer to your users. Are you just restricting, or are you giving more? We've mentioned a lot the gaming industry in the different conversations, and what we love about the gaming industry, leaving aside that they're growing a lot, is the evolution of their business model. 5 years ago, you would talk to a gaming company or a gaming developer, and you would hear, oh yeah, we're building a game and it's going to cost $2. Today, that almost doesn't exist anymore, because business models are dynamic. If in an ideal world, if I connect to your game, you know beforehand if I'm about and if I will buy something within your game, or if I will never buy, then don't monetize me with something that I need to pay, monetize me with ads. And I think it's that strategy in terms of understanding your audience, understanding what your users are and what they do across the web, not only on your site, that will give you the granularity to create a business model for each and one of them. Now, who doesn't agree with those two reasons being the most important one? Anyone? Do you feel there is another reason why users are not paying to access your content that I've missed? I'm asking because I cheated. This was not my second slide. This was my 5th slide. Google Consumer Surveys is a research tool. So as a researcher, I asked the web, and my question was, would you be willing to pay a subscription to read the news online? Now, Google Consumer Survey asked me for a number of answers, and I told Google Consumer Surveys that I'm going to call GCS from now on because it's a very long name. So I told GCS, I want 3,000 answers. You get me 3,000 answers, so that's my sample, a representative sample, so with the right age, from the right region in the US, and I want answers on that question. You can see 88.4% answered no, and 11.6% answered yes. Now, the one that answered no, I wanted to follow up. I wanted to know, why aren't you willing to buy a subscription? So the follow-up question was, why? And you can see they were giving here multiple choices and an open answer. Now, you can see here what you saw on the previous slide, right? The main reason is I can get news for free online. The second one is I can see the benefits. So I don't know why I should pay. And the third one is subscriptions are too expensive, which to me is mixed to the second one. It has to do with packaging and what you're selling and how you're selling it. Back on topic, on Google Consumer Survey, this is all about research. And that problematic that I had with this topic on paywall, it applies to everything else, right? There is a world out there, the market research world, and they're constantly asking questions. I'll give you a concrete example. Toothpaste, Colgate. Toothpaste, it comes in blue, comes in red, comes in green. That's typically a product development question. What colors do the users, consumers want? Do they want a blue toothpaste? Do they want a red toothpaste? That's what we answer with Google Consumer Surveys. And you could answer in this room, and why should we care? And you should care because the answers that we collect to those questions, we collect them via a publisher network, so via sites like you. We've basically recreated the ecosystem that you might find in AdWords and AdExchange if you're familiar with our advertising solutions. But we've just replaced the advertising part with the survey part. So instead of seeing an ad, you see a question, which can be, are you going to pay for subscription in the next year? I had a video, but because I have access to my computer, I'm going to do a live demo, which is usually a terrible idea when you're in a conference. We'll see if it works. So if you're all looking at the screen, this is a template website. The idea was to recreate the structure of a news website. You can see, obviously, the logo. It's live. Right? It's hosted on google.com. The title, you can see the beginning of the article. You can see an ad here. This is actually an AdSense ad. Now I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to scroll down slowly. I don't know if the resolution is good enough, but you see in green, please complete the following survey to access this premium content. And you see a question. Which sentence best describes how interested you are in technology products like computers, smartphones, and apps? Very relevant to our topic today. I can see the answers, or show me the different question, skip the survey. Now, let me scroll down. You can see here the text is invisible. I can't keep on reading. For the sake of the example, I'm going to answer the question. And I'm going to say, I love everything related to technology products. I see a second question, but, actually no but, because this is a two-question survey. So which of the following do you own personally? I own a smartphone and a tablet. I submit, everything disappears. And the text appears, and I can continue reading. I'm going to go into the details in a second. So the way it works, the page load, Google Consumer Survey load, was that a, yep, okay, I'll speed up. It appears in line, it's not a pop-up. What you can do, you can actually hear, it's a screenshot from Bloomberg Businessweek, which is one of our partners. You can see this is what we call the secondary action, so you answer a question or you do something else. For them, the something else is you connect to our site via Facebook. So that action is actually completely customizable by the publisher. You can see in this other example, which is a regional site in the US called Bakersfield, California, is you answer the question or you subscribe. So they've integrated the paywall within Google Consumer Survey. Now, I'm going to skip right to the end. We obviously work with more than 1,000 publishers these days. Most and all of our publishers are generating a substantial amount of revenue. And because Glenn was shouting, show me the money at the beginning of this panel, I'm actually going to show you a report to see, for you to see what we mean with Google Consumer Surveys in terms of monetization. But I think that's the best story that we have. This is from last week. And they've asked the CEO of La Dépêche, which is one of the most important regional sites in France, they asked him to tell the audience, his experience with Google Consumer Survey on their site, because they're one of our partners. And he said, the surveys never touch more than 10% of our audience. The group expects to add 5% of their online revenue with Google Consumer Survey. All incremental. So that's just to illustrate the fact that we're having a real and concrete impact in terms of online revenue today. And with that, I don't know if you'll be able to see. There's a lot of data, so I'm gonna describe it to you. This is a report. This is a publisher report. It's actually from January, and it's a US publisher. On the 11th of January 2015, this publisher served 10,000 impressions. In advertising or even analytical terms, 10,000 impressions is like a small blog, but they are a big publisher. So we served 10,000 impressions. I'm going to go to the right. The RPM is $49. So they made, with 10,000 impressions, $527. I'm going to take another day, just the following day, the 12th of January. We had 28,000 impressions. RPM is still above $40, $44, and they made $1,246. So this is why we are launching Google Consumer Surveys in other markets. I'm in charge, as I said, of the European and LATAM launch. It's because with just a few thousand impressions, we're able to pay, in this case, about 40 times what advertising solutions pay on a very small chunk of traffic. And today, with the type of integrations that we have, we hope to integrate better with paywalls and with advertising strategies. I'll cut it here. I had more info, but that's it for me. Thank you.